Talking Law on Radio 97 for this Thursday morning. Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, with us each and every Thursday. She brings her legal expertise and provides some general advice on the hot topics, and they keep coming thick and fast. She has experience that spans more than 25 years in the area of property and commercial law. She also prepares wills as part of estate planning and litigation. With us once again, morning, Despina.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning, Desi. So kicking off this morning, there's a new bill being proposed in Queensland, and this means possibly some big changes, including a change to the sunset clauses. Despina, we've spoken a bit about this on the show. So can you tell us what is in this bill?
I'm very excited. We get excited when bills are actually distributed. So they're in circulation, which means all the hard work that's happened previous to the bill being released has actually been taken on board by the government, and they've actually listened to this and they've actually issued a bill. So the bill is a first step in making changes to existing laws. So when we talk about this bill this morning, we want to be really clear that it is not law yet. So it is just a bill. But when I say just a bill, it's a pretty significant bill. It makes a lot of changes to body corporate legislation, makes changes to the Land Sales Act, which deals with off-the-plan contracts, and that's what we're going to be focusing on this morning. So this bill will be very significant because this bill, which is called a very long name, as it always is when you're amending existing acts, the Body Corporate and Community Management and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2023.
That's got everything. Yep.
It does. It
Yes.
sounds fake.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, it's a real bill. So the relevant parties out there have listened to the community feedback from last year when we talk about sunset dates. And the Palaszczuk government, I understand, was committed to this. So that's very good to see. Particularly Shannon Fentiman really was driving these changes to the sunset date laws. And we want to talk about what that will mean for people under off-the-plan contracts. I will say when the bill gets passed, because I'm fairly confident that the bill will actually be passed. It'll just be a matter of time. And why it's significant to talk about it now, even though it might be another, 6 months or maybe longer for the bill to be passed, is as at the bill, the way it is written now, and remember, it's not law yet, but as they've written it now, the law changes in relation to sunset dates for off-the-plan contracts will be retrospective.
Massive.
Yeah. So everybody that is under an off-the-plan contract, and I'll explain which off-the-plan contracts, because it's not all off-the-plan contracts. We want to qualify that. If this bill is passed in its current form, where it does provide for that to be retrospective, it will mean that when the bill becomes law, it will apply to all off-the-plan contracts in existence under this particular law, as at the time the bill was passed. So any ones that are in place that haven't settled, right? So you're under an off-the-plan contract, and we'll explain which ones apply, and they haven't settled at the time that the bill is passed later on, it becomes law, these laws will actually apply. They'll actually apply. So it could be to people out there right now who are listening to this segment.
And this is a Queensland bill. So we're kind of following the footsteps of New South Wales.
Well, I'd like to say that we are, and the proposed changes, I will say, to the laws very much take on what happened in New South Wales quite a few years ago when the laws were overhauled in relation to sunset dates and off-the-plan contracts. And what we're really talking about, and the focus there and the driver, I suppose I could say, for the changes were where you had a sunset date and the developer was just waiting till the end of that sunset date when it expired, and it was an automatic, I get to terminate the contract and then I get to resell at a higher price. So that activity, that conduct that was happening with some developers, not all, in New South Wales, that activity was curbed. It was really stopped by the changes to the laws in New South Wales, and now they're proposing similar changes in Queensland.
So it's positive. It sounds good.
It's a very, very positive change. The only thing at this stage, if I can say that I'm not happy with, and we're still going to talk about what the changes are in a minute, is that these particular changes as of today are only going to apply to land sale subdivisions for off the plan. So if you're in an off the plan where you've signed something for an apartment, for a townhouse, yet to be constructed, even for a dwelling in a body corporate, yet to be constructed, okay, apparently it's not going to apply to those. But, you know, there's movement in the background from relevant stakeholders to get these changes to apply to all off the plan contracts across the board, just like it happened in New South Wales. And I think that's the fairer approach. Let's see what happens. But the changes are this. So, and remember, we're talking about land sale subdivisions, people who buy off the plan. It's an 18-month sunset date under the current laws, and they're buying land to build a home afterwards, right? So what the changes are, and they're pretty significant, is that when you get to the end of the sunset date, and for land sales, it's 18 months in Queensland, the developer will no longer be able to just, well, the sunset date's now come and gone. It's expired. I'm terminating because I haven't really been able to get everything done by the sunset date, and I get to terminate. Now, if these laws are passed, that's not going to be able to have happen anymore in Queensland. So that's really, really good news. And what it will mean, and we have to see the final laws, obviously, as passed, but in this bill, what it says is that what it will mean is come near the sunset date, if the developer has not been able to get that plan registered, get that title issued for that particular lot, and anything else that may be prescribed, they have to give a notice called a sunset date notice to the buyer 28 days prior to when the sunset date's going to expire, and say, look, we can't actually complete, we won't be able to get it done by the 18 months and we want to terminate. Will you consent? Now, if the buyer doesn't consent, then the developer will be forced to go to the Supreme Court and get an order, okay, to get an order to be able to terminate that contract. Now, that's significant because currently that's not the law. And so if these laws are passed, it means that the developer, it's not going to be an automatic termination. It will mean, no, you actually have to take a few steps, right? The developer will have to go through a few hoops to actually get that result in the end, if they can actually get that result in the end.
Okay, so it sounds like it will be made a little more difficult now for, well, assuming that these laws are actually passed, for developers to actually just pull the rug out for, well, sometimes for no apparent reason other than, well, profit maybe.
Exactly. So, and what these laws currently say, and when I say laws, the bill, which is not law, so it's proposed, what they're talking about is that when you go off to the Supreme Court because the buyer won't consent to terminating your contract, then the seller's got to satisfy, the developer's got to satisfy the court that it's just and equitable. And how do they do that? So really the onus will be on the developer to go to the Supreme Court and prove to the court that it's just and equitable. And there are a list of things that they've got to, you know, show to the court, and the court's got to be satisfied. For example, I'm just reading a few things. Has the seller acted unreasonably? Has it acted in bad faith or good faith? Are there other things to take into account? The viability of the seller. For example, has the value of the land increased? Are there reasonable prospects that the developer can actually get this settled? Meaning, you know, if there's proof that, look, I just need another 3 months and we'll get it through, that could be sufficient enough for a buyer to go, well, no, you've only need another 3 months. You don't get to terminate, right? And you just need to complete those steps. So that's pretty significant. The effect of terminating the contract on the buyer. So that's something that the court may take into account. And so there are factors listed that the court will look at if these laws are passed, to say, look, it is just and equitable for you to terminate, or it's actually not just and equitable for you to terminate at all.
I just wanted to ask you, actually. Okay, so we'll pick it up from here. Now, you talked about the bill is in circulation and there still might be some changes before it actually gets to Parliament. What sort of timeframes are we talking about, firstly, for any changes that need to be made, and then before it actually becomes law, do you think?
And look, I think because it's taken a full year to get to this point where the bill has been issued for comment, I think that they're going to look at this fairly quickly. But in saying that, look, who knows? I don't know. I'm not the Queensland government, and I can't really, you know, speak on their behalf. But what they're doing is they're already calling for comments by relevant stakeholders who contributed to the bill before it was issued. And now they're going back to those same stakeholders and asking for further comment about what do you think about this bill. So that's already happening in the background. I'm hopeful that this will be passed in the next 6 months. And if it's passed in its current form, which is retrospective, then it will be applying to all existing off the plan contracts for land sales and subdivisions only. And look, there's hope there for it to be applied across the board for off the plan and bodies corporate, which is really, I think, just as significant as land sales. So let's see what happens in the future. But look, this is a good step.
And you'll hear about it first, if anything changes, on the Talking Law show during brekkie hours. And coming up next, how does land tax actually work? And why or how does it actually change? Despina has all the details coming up in just a moment on Talking Law.
Are you confused about legal jargon? Do you need legal advice but don't know where to turn? Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97. Despina, a leading lawyer with over 20 years of experience, will demystify the law and provide practical advice to help you navigate legal issues. Whether it's a family matter, a property dispute, or a business concern, Talking Law has got you covered. Don't miss out on this valuable resource. Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97.